All right. All right. Hi, Nina.
Hi, Tara. It's nice to see you again.
Hi. Oh, we're small boxes. Do you like the small box look, or do you?
It's all good.
Yeah, I don't know what's. I think actually I do know. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Morbid Symptoms. Notes from the Interregnum. I keep on playing with the title, which is probably a bad idea for branding, but whatever. I do this just because I have to get it out. Anyway, I switched the options on my StreamYard because they keep on making it more expensive, and so then it was this whole thing when I came on, and I was like, what's happening? So I had to decide which of the channels to use, and it was this whole thing. Anyway, let me turn off this fantastic stock music, as lovely as it is.
Wait, we've got stocks in the middle as well. We've got here Chomsky in the stocks, just stocks everywhere.
And I am, of course, I'm Tara, and I've been informed that I'm a Chomsky cultist libtard. So I mean, and whatever. I've been called people. That's what I used. I think I probably told you this before. The last time we talked, I was thinking when I decided I was going to do the whole podcast thing, when I realized that either I wasn't for academia or academia wasn't for me, or it was a common thing. I was thinking about names, and I was like, oh, I should call myself Schrodinger's bitch. But then I thought that might put off people who don't like that salty talk. So I figured I'd rather not do it, because I'm sure you know more than anyone, or one through that it's kind of interesting, all the things that people attribute to you that together couldn't possibly hold, but you're just like, okay. But I will take that down. Go ahead, sorry.
I said it's all true. Anything everyone says, it's all true. Like
right.
Especially the stuff that contradicts itself, or the really deranged stuff. It's all why not?
I think I don't want to waste any more time. So I can see you, you can see me, I can hear you, you can hear me. So everybody else is welcome. Thank you. And also I should say that I think for those of us who are those of us, I'm like pluribus now. For those of us who are watching on X, I don't think I changed the title. So, because originally I was just going to come on and elaborate on a Substack I wrote a couple days ago in defense of Noam Chomsky, with the subtitle "Against this kind of show trial, pillory, political snuff festival," or whatever you want to call it. And I was reaching out to Nina because Nina Power is an intellectual powerhouse. Yes, she's been canceled, I think, at least 3 times on the left. The left is canceled.
You said 3. That I mean, sure. I don't know.
Is it only 2?
Well, it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because it's like a rolling thing, and if you have like people who are just completely obsessed with you, they will keep trying. They'll like contact new people. So it's kind of like a roller coaster. Like, sometimes you're fine, and then there's another wave. It's like wave. Like feminism, it comes in waves.
Oh God! When will the final wave crash?
Well, Laura, speaking of final, I really liked your piece about the final file, right? Like the fantasy of. I thought this was very insightful, actually, and maybe this is a good place to start in some ways, because the kind of, I think the psychoanalytic question of like total knowledge and its relation to paranoia is completely key here, like with the Epstein Files. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where you wanted to.
No, I just wanted to say, because I just assume that I forget that that I have to introduce my guests sometimes. So
oh yeah, no. I mean, it's all good. I mean, like, what do I do?
But anyway, the reason why, I mean, I would always love to talk to Nina, but she has psychoanalytical chops. She wrote The One-Dimensional Woman. And
well, that was very old. I mean, to be honest, I don't really write in a psychoanalytic vein, but there's bits here and there. I read a book about men.
Well, compared to me, I should say, because I'm very much an accidental Zizekian, yeah. And hold on, I'm not saying that to distance myself from a problematic person. I'm saying that just to let people know that it's totally self-trained. I totally happened on him on accident. got the bug, tried to figure it out. And you know how it is, once something resonates with you, it's always kind of one of the filters that you bring to things. Not the only one, but one of them. And so when I get to talk to somebody who I'm like, oh God, they actually are much more fluent and comfortable, or at least I projecting, you're the subject supposed to know. I'm like, if someone asks her, okay, what's lack, what's fantasy, what's enjoyment, it'll just flow off her tongue and it'll just be these crisp concepts. Whereas when I'm online, I'm kind of like, okay, I can tell you what jouissance is, and it's all very good. But anyway, so I was very excited to have her come on and give her what she thinks about the Chomsky Pillory, the Epstein Files, and what I'm calling, these are my words, the left's gaping lack. And don't worry, those of you who aren't familiar with the lingo, we will let you know what we mean by lack and gaping lack. So that's why, and Nina's great, and her Substack details are in the video description. And on that note, I just want to get your first thoughts. I also want to clarify what we're not going to be doing. We're not going to be going through the minutia of the Epstein Files related to Chomsky and defending him at the empirical or applying objective moral reasoning. I think that should be done. Other people are doing it, but we're very much looking at this from kind of a political psychoanalysis point of view. And it's crazy out there, y'all. So on that note, I would like to get your initial thoughts on what you make of this Chomsky pillory going on the left.
Sure, I guess it's in keeping with the general tendency of the left, or I don't know, even the culture more broadly in the last 10 years. I mean, writers like Catherine Deere pointed out that politics and many other things have just taken on this the structure of fandom, that is not so. There isn't really that much room for ambiguity, for facts, or I don't know, even older Christian ideas of forgiveness and redemption and so on. But rather it's a kind of boo array type thing where I used to love her and then she did this problematic thing and then now I hate her. And so there is a kind of sort of bipolarity in the culture. I mean, just on the Epstein thing in general, I mean, it's definitely causing a kind of mass psychosis. This may or may not be interesting. It's getting pretty eschatological out there. I don't know if that really corresponds to the end of anything, the end of American Empire, the end of the world, the Second Coming. Who knows? But it is getting a little bit like that, as I think humanity periodically does. Maybe this time it really is the end. And I suppose my initial impressions of what I have understood broadly of the files is that, well, okay, all these people know each other. Perhaps we knew that they did. But this is not a kind of left-right thing necessarily. Second of all, that they're extremely utilitarian in their outlook and kind of very atheistic and hedonistic. Fine. Everything is kind of an exchange. I was actually disappointed with the clear lack of speculative, metaphysical, philosophical, religious discussions, at least in the emails. At no point.
Okay, I should say, have you read some of the dump? Have you read?
I've read some of the things that have been circulating, including kind of Chomsky's.
Okay, so you have, yeah.
There's sort of I don't know, let's say the advice that Chomsky seems to give. Maybe it's forwarded secondhand. It's not really clear to Epstein in 2019, which is actually consistent with a lot of what Chomsky has said before about free speech and so on. It's not actually.
And what I thought is this, and of course I realized that it's going to be a story. I mean, him showing up in the Epstein Files. Yeah, is going to be a story. So even though I'm a bit repulsed at the kind of the tabloid left of it all, it's like, okay, they are going to talk about it. The viciousness, again, like the excessiveness of it. My understanding, I think, okay, there's like a populist vein because we have it's like these populist passions. So look, it's another elite, and they're, it's a big team. We're not on it, and even Chomsky. And then you have this whole kind of Stalinist revivalist thing going on. Like, see, we were right about him all along, and this kind of like it's just kind of using this, of course, and it's a fantastic pretense for them to be like, see, everything, to rewrite everything that the signifier Chomsky, I would say, illustrates, they think is one of the main reasons why they are as impotent as they are politically. They wouldn't say that, but that's my word. So that's fine. But when I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, because at first I thought, what was he getting massages with Alan Dershowitz or something? Was he like actually implicated? Was he there being, with all the young ladies and whatnot? And then I thought, okay. And then I saw that, and I'm like, well, and this is before I knew that he had helped them with the financial problems that they were having. And I can imagine if you're 90 some years old and all of a sudden you have to worry about, excuse me, things you didn't think you had to worry about. And this guy just fixes it for you. So I was like, well, is this nefarious, or is this just like returning a kindness? And people are making it out like he was offering to be his Olivia Pope figure or something. Like he was really like strategizing. And it was basically like, yeah, what are you going to do? It's terrible. You can't prove a negative, And now with the MeToo, and it was during the MeToo period, so it's hard to even challenge anything without, And I'm like, well, first of all, everything he's saying is accurate. And it's like I said, and to just be like somehow he knew everything, and he was trying to help Jeffrey get out of, pedophile charges. It's just, you have to read that into it. You have to want to see that in there. Was how I felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly several differences we could draw in terms of like, what does it mean to be friends with someone? What does it mean to kind of remain in contact with someone after they have been found guilty of a particular crime? What does it mean to get somebody's advice or offer advice? I mean, I think it was Aaron Maté published the letter from Chomsky's wife, which basically seemed to argue that Chomsky is naive insofar as he thinks the best of people, and perhaps like not so aware of what the general like ideas around Chomsky, around Epstein were somehow, that he was kind of overly trusting and so on and so forth, and that he took financial advice. She says that Epstein's 2008 conviction in Florida was known by very few people, and we were like unaware of it. This changed after 2018, although like Chomsky is in touch with Epstein in 2019. I mean, I think like one thing, like if you want to talk about the libidinal dimension of cancel culture, one thing I think motivates it is actually a profound sense of laziness, right? So actually what's going on here in some ways is, okay, maybe people have beef with Chomsky over BDS. Maybe they are now maybe they think that there's a kind of Jewish conspiracy that is about protecting Israel, and that Chomsky and Epstein are part of it. Perhaps they don't like what Chomsky has said in the past about Bosnia, about Cambodia, and so on and so forth, right? There might be like real reasons. They might have beef with his linguistics. But in some ways, one thing that does happen with cancel culture is that you therefore like say, I don't need to read this person, right? Like I can simply discount every single thing they've ever said, all of their contributions, and in fact, what a relief, right? Like I don't have to take this person seriously. Anything they say is now forever tainted, and that there's kind of profound exhaustion at the heart of cancel culture because culture itself is like too much, and this is like a shortcut way of like saying like, well, okay, I'm just gonna not read this. questions of this, like, all the
yeah,
way.
go ahead. Finish.
Just to finish, like with, oh, we don't have to read cis white men. We don't have to read, people who are like tied up with slavery, or I'm just going to say that they were like, do you know what I mean? So you basically just like cut out vast swathes of everything that you might need to think about, or you might, a human being might want to consider, right? Like how is language formed, or what was America's role in various foreign policy escapades, and so on and so forth, right? So yeah.
No, and what I'll bring this down for a second, and on that I was thinking, okay, because and when his wife released that statement, I thought, oh, girlfriend, if I were you, I mean, of course I'm a bit claws out sometimes, but I would like go F yourself. Now I understand why she did it, and I understand why Aaron, because Aaron seems like kind of like he really seems to be. Like he's trying to be like, okay, like I get why people are have feelings about it. They might feel this way. He's trying to be very even-handed. And I'm like, is he not aware that he is not this is not a knowledge issue or a reason as far as from this type of thing, the kind of cancel culture, the show trial, the, like striking him from the record and just all this stuff. Is like, I'm like, we're dealing with enjoyment here and grudges and sour grapes and Schadenfreude and all this stuff. And I thought, and right on the dot, as soon as that came out, I started saying, oh, now she's sorry. It's all performative. Oh, and then which is fine if you get like the rank and file and people on the internet and like, you get this kind of whatever. But what really irritated me, and I'm not like, obviously I knew who Chomsky was, and I read some of his works, and he just seemed like this nice old man. Like you would see him online sometimes, and he would just come and he'd have like his nice little sweater on, and he would just give a very kind of, even keeled, whatever he was talking about, and just kind of, and then he would go, and I thought people hate him. Like, okay, I didn't realize all the beef with the anarchists and the Stalinists and the libertarian versus I guess the Marxist Leninist left or whatever it was. But fine, okay. But when you have someone like Vijay Prashad and also Chris Hedges, they basically say, "Go ahead, go for it." They totally are like, go for it. He deserves it. I mean, and Chris Hedges, who apparently is a time traveling mind reader, is like, no, he knew what he was doing. He was seduced. This was a betrayal. This will besmirch his whole thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, how Christian of you also. It was just like, because to me, it's just, and I'm sure that I don't want to get into details of your past experiences. But when it's one thing not to say anything that can also, like if things are getting out of hand and the mobs are getting riled up, but to give permission to it, to sanctify it. And I have to admit, Nina, I don't know if this will happen or not because I have no idea, but I have this dream now of Norval Finkelstein just like taking Chris Hedges to task. And I don't know, maybe he's melted over this. But given what I don't know him personally, but I'm like, okay, I hope he's working on it. He's going through the records. He's calming down. And because it's just like, I'm like, they're not going to leave anything on this bone, But sorry, I'm trying to listen. I want to hear what you say, not my, I think it's. Like, what did you think? And of course, feel free to, call me, to put me in my place if I'm getting too excited. But what did you think about, if you're familiar with Chris Hedges coming out and basically like, saying, yes, he's guilty, it's a betrayal?
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I guess, there are several strands to things that are going on, right? Like, so one of which is, like you say, like pre-existing political beefs, right? Whether that be between like factionalism, whether we think about Chomsky as a kind of anarcho-syndicalist, and then obviously all the tankies and so on, and communists are going to be like this shows like, the whatever, this proves that this is like bourgeois libertarianism actually, or whatever, and that only like some sort of weird tank Maoism is gonna save the day, and this is going to be a sort of like leftist, intra-leftist or intra-political beef, right? So there's that. There's the specific things that Chomsky has said around different, foreign policy issues, and the BDS, and I mean,
Syria. I noticed that the people who hate each other about Syria have come together to hate on him. So
right. So yeah, there's going to be all these specific things, and over a career, like you say, I mean, Chomsky is nearly 100. He's been criticizing American foreign policy and doing the linguistic stuff for like decades and decades and decades. I mean, clearly there's going to be something that somebody could take issue with, correctly or otherwise, right? But I think the level we're trying to talk about it is not so much about like, was Chomsky right about?
Oh, no.
So, and then I suppose the third thing is, yeah, I don't know, like this deeper anthropological thing. There's this, like you talked about enjoyment, the enjoyment of the mob, like the enjoyment perhaps of seeing somebody who is very prominent taken down, right? Like this is, and I mean, I think it's obviously Christianity basically begins and ends with this desire, right? Like this is if you want to talk about the kind of psychoanalytic aspect of Christianity, it basically is the religion, I think, above all, that admits and realizes and takes as its starting point the mob's desire to scapegoat and kill, right? And then in a way the whole religion is structured around this desire to sacrifice. And I think one of the great pities of a sort of the post-Christian culture that we are in, like, and obviously most of the lefties would probably think of themselves as like atheists, that they would think of themselves like, do you know what I mean? Like as not, they're not Christian, right? They might have a kind of morality, or maybe morality will come after the revolution, or maybe we're just supposed to know what the right way is to behave, and clearly Chomsky and all these people have done the wrong thing, right? Like, so they've stepped over the line, whatever the line is it being in contact with somebody who's been accused or indeed found guilty of what was it, prostitution?
If I can weigh in here, because I've recently become an Epstein skeptic. I really didn't want to. I'm like, and what I'm saying, and what I'm not saying is like, oh, it's all a hoax, or he did nothing wrong. I'm not a Stalinist talking about Stalin and Mao and Pol Pot. They did nothing wrong. And I've been following a bit of what's that guy's name, Michael Tracy, and I just been kind of looking at, and as the crazier it gets, and you're thinking like, wait a minute, maybe why this has to keep on going is because there's only embers, there's no huge fire, and they have to figure out how to land this plane and who's going to take the beef for it. Yeah. But what I understand is that, again, and this, I'll just mention this because it goes into like how terrible it was if he would dissociate with this person. And it's and people are, of course, like, and I mean, I think this is like how our minds work, but we're like projecting what we think about Epstein now on back to then. Yeah. And it's hard to disassociate the weight of that, I guess, signifier, that image, of him being the most terrible, villainous, debauched sex predator that ever walked the earth. But at the time, in 2008, he ended up with pleading guilty to prostitution, and the person that was involved. Her story was that she was 17, but it was like the day she had been giving him massages, lying about her, not honest, like, don't ask, don't tell, maybe about the age. And this also sounds a bit just so. The day before my 18th birthday, I guess the erotic massage went all the way. And apparently he has this thing of getting massages from young women. I'm using young women in the words like from 15 to 25. But the story was when the girls were also recruiting each other, like, he doesn't want anybody that's under 18. You have to be 18, which to me is like, if you're asked how old you are, say you're 18. Not that he was particularly concerned by not getting a 16 or 17-year-old, but that's my projection onto that. Somehow this got there was some high school problem. There was rumors in a high school, and someone's mom found out. And this is based on Michael Tracy going into the archive. I have not looked into the Florida case, and that's what started off this thing in Florida. And then they had this list of, that's where the 40 possible victims come from. So there was 40 girls they wanted to talk to, and what Michael Tracy has said is that either they denied knowing him, said they knew him, but nothing sexual had happened, and no one wanted to be involved, no one wanted to press charges. So they had these 40 potential victims, but that was the case. So on the record, he had prostitution with a 17-year-old. He paid a 17-year-old to have sex. And of course, in Florida, the age of consent is 18, so that's the worst offense. So that was what had been on record as the crime. Then later on, with the MeToo thing, I think I can't remember what, there was a reporter, and here I am getting into details I didn't want to, but I think it's important to kind of have a baseline to say like how excessive the reaction seems to be and how kind of hysterical, perhaps, that I was looking into it, and that was the whole thing. Like this rich guy with powerful friends got this sweetheart deal, and within the Me Too thing, of course, this became this whole thing, and then it kind of speared on from there was the beginning point to now all this other stuff. So people want to say like, oh, that he was hanging out with a known pedophile. It's not. That's not true.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
And I wanted to ask you. I don't know how careful you are, but you've also been in the university biz, and there's donors want to. There's events we go and you hang out with the patrons and the donors, yeah. And at least that's what you said at MIT. I don't know. So I'm just wondering, like, if let's say like if you had you met somebody like people you meet, if you're going to go, like, I don't know, you get invited to a dinner party with somebody, or someone says, hey, Nina, I know you really like this. I actually know this person, this big playwright or whatever. Why don't you all organize and we can have a dinner together? Are you going to Google and do like a criminal background check of them?
No, I mean, I think some of the guilt by association, most of it, to be honest, is very excessive. I mean, I think if you are I don't know, a successful person in your field, you are bound to be invited to all kinds of things with people, and you're not going to check who they are necessarily. I mean, there's something a little bit obscene about some of the communications, right? And I think a lot of the pleasure and the enjoyment that people are taking in sort of analyzing them is partly because the obscenity is in the communication itself, right? Like, it is humiliating to see people who are supposedly important thinkers be obsequious to this sort of sleazy guy, like whatever else he is. He's at minimum, he's extremely sleazy. Whether he was like charismatic or whatever, like who knows? I think one of the things that we have seen happen with the files is that whatever you wanted them to be, you could make them. And I think you make this point in your great piece about the last file, right? So if your thing was Israel, it's all about Israel. If it's about money, it's all about money. If it's about status, it's all about status. If it's about trans, it's all about trans. That's also in the letters.
Oh, yeah.
If it's about pedophilia, it's in the files. If it's about cannibalism, it's in the files, right? If it's about code, if it's about this desire to interpret. And by the way, I'm not saying that I know for sure anything about whether there was code being used, whether these phrases.
The Coke. The grape soda and the pizza. Great. Yeah.
Right. Whatever it is, beef jerky, whatever. Like, look, I think, but what is, like, if we zone out for a minute, right? And it may well be, as you say, like that we will never know. Okay. And the pain of not knowing haunts us as subjects all the time, right? Like that we are filled with absence and unknowing, not knowing, badly knowing, ignorance, like all kinds of things, right? Like it boils my piss sometimes when I think there is the truth of a situation, however minor, right? Let's say you lose an object in the world, right? Like I've lost this object, let's say, and I know that it exists in the world somewhere, but I don't know where it is, you know? And like even that micro level of like not knowing is so excruciating. So like expand that sort of like absence of, of knowing, right, to something which seems to promise the knowledge of everything, right? Like, okay, maybe we don't have all the files, maybe they're redacted, maybe if we got all of the files, maybe if we got everything and all the names were revealed, then suddenly everything would make sense, right? Of course it wouldn't. Even if everybody was imprisoned or sentenced to death, none of this would make total sense. Do you know what I mean? Like the problem is a structural one of knowledge, and I think the Epstein thing is basically done like deliberately or otherwise. Like, and obviously now people are speculating on whether there is a conspiracy to release the files themselves because of the kind of consequences of that on the public discourse, what is being discussed, what isn't being discussed. Is this designed to cause a sort of mass psychosis event? Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it could. What about the timing? Is this about Iran? Is this right? So, like we've got this kind of. It's almost like the structure of knowledge itself and desire is being revealed. Like more, there seems to be this kind of great unveiling that people are talking about, right? Like how do we even collectively understand what it is that we think we know, right? We can, qua humanity, and we have the cultural resources to do this for many decades, imagine the worst possible world, right? It is truly possible to imagine that this world, if we go there and we say, all right, the people in charge of us are not like us at all, they might not be human, they at least in terms of like what they want to do, the things they do, they are things that we would never do, right? Even if and then the question becomes, if we, like the little person, had access to power, money, resources, right? On what basis would we or would we not do the things that we think the elites and the ruling class are doing? Okay, that's one question. Obviously, most people would say, I would never do X or Y, right? Like, okay, great. That's good. It's very good that most people would not do X or Y. Right? I'm not going to eat a baby or whatever.
But wouldn't you, if I may, maybe this is the thing that like, if this moral idea that we have of ourselves is never tested, then it's also how do we know? Because I was thinking also of a similar thing that's not so spicy as the Epstein Files, and and Chomsky's, Chomsky being a revelation of them. I'm just really have to say that I'm really glad it wasn't him on the massage thing with Dershowitz, because that might have had to require a cancellation. Anyway, but do you remember the thing about the comedy? There was this comedy festival in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and they got a lot of big name marquee comedians. So Dave Chappelle, Louis C.K., Kevin Hart, a whole bunch of Bill Burr, also some I think Whitney Webb maybe, but it's also some of the ladies and whatnot. And so this whole thing like, oh my God, they're selling out. How could you possibly go to Saudi Arabia? Don't you know what they do? I would never. And the comedians that wouldn't do it, they're like, I would never. And Tim Dillon, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He did this whole thing like, you weren't asked, first of all.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm doing it is because I'm being offered a lot of money. I'm being offered money to look the other way. Sometimes you just gotta look the other way. That's what I'm doing. And it's kind of, but it's kind of funny because he actually, just by him spoofing that and talking about how all these possible things that could happen in Saudi Arabia, he would just look the other way. Got back to Saudi Arabia and they canceled his contract. And he was like, you can support people too much.
That's funny. I mean, look, yeah, Tara, to be
I would
clear,
never, but when it's not tested, like, how do you know? How do you know?
yeah. I think this is a question, but I mean, look, to be honest, I really don't think that most people would do the worst things that we can all possibly imagine, right?
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, like,
so
going on accepting a private plane ride to go see a prime minister of a country whose conflict you've been studying for 40 years. That type of thing.
But that doesn't mean that, let's say the hypotheticals around blackmail or surveillance or people being kind of tricked into doing things. Look, we don't know, right? Again, this is like people are making all kinds of claims, right? There isn't necessarily the evidence that people want, right? So people are kind of extrapolating and hypothesizing and basically reifying and hyperstitioning a world in which, the elites really are doing these things, okay? And some of these are very old school claims, particularly accusations leveled at Jewish people, right? Like blood libel is a very old thing, and so on, right? So there's all kinds of things going on. At the same time, Tara, as you know, in the UK, we have had the rape gangs.
The grooming gangs.
People from Pakistan who are involved in like various criminal enterprises. And this has been going on for decades. Okay, this has nothing to do with like the elites in the sense of like Hollywood, academia, I don't know, whatever, islands, lots of money. This is something that is basically been happening for decades in impoverished towns. And the exploitation has largely been of very vulnerable white working class girls who have been often were in care or were, in a difficult economic situation. And many of them were indeed underage. The age of consent in the UK is 16. I think that there is a bigger question about what we mean by consent. There's also a big question about what we mean about sex work, because obviously most people on the left, or many people on the left, would be okay with sex work.
Apparently not, though, Nina.
Hey?
Apparently not, though.
Well, this is an interesting question, right? So insofar as like we're all hypocrites, okay, fine. Then I think that like that question of transparency, like, can we actually acknowledge to ourselves where we might have lines, right? So like we might be like, well, actually, it's fine if we cancel this person for this thing because we don't like their politics, but the same person who's on our side does the same thing or something similar, and we don't cancel them. Okay, somebody could be really consistent and say, yeah, I'm being unfair. Like, I just like this person and I don't like this other person. I mean, I think, but what's really, I don't know, stark about the comparison between what we know about Epstein and what we do know about the rape gangs in the UK is that the latter is real, has been happening, and is ongoing, and is extremely sordid, right? Like it lacks the glamour, for want of a better word, associated with high-flying elites. You know what I mean? This is like tawdry, criminal, horrible stuff that is like...
Yeah, it wasn't happening in private planes and private islands and the most expensive, I guess, loft or whatever it is, apartment in Manhattan.
Right.
Not that makes, if really bad things happen there, that makes it okay. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Want to talk about criminal conspiracy, it looks very much like these were organized gangs that were working with the knowledge of the police, of the labor councillors. This was being like shuffled under the rug because of like the commitment to the abstraction of multiculturalism. Like, to go back to this question of sacrifice, these were white working class girls. The general impression at the level of class war, and here's where some Marxism might actually be useful, is that the British elites genuinely thought that it was fine to sacrifice these girls in the name of the value, the ideological commitment that they had to multiculturalism. And they would call anybody racist, and they're still doing it, who would address this issue, who wanted to talk about this issue for decades.
And would you also say that it's easier to have the issue about who's racist or not racist, multiculturalism or isolationism, rather than the class one you point out? And also, what happened to these towns? The disinvestment, the deprivation, the austerity, the fact that it's kind of the geography, because my geography back and the geography of it all. you know,
Yeah.
and the kind of there's no code there to like who's running the world or why Trump does what he does, or why well, maybe a bit more Stammer, you know, to understand, you know, who's, you know, we're not going to get insights into the global satanic pedophile cult that rules us all by focusing on by the type of crime and conspiracy that you don't have to go hunt about. What you're saying is that there is already there. It's pretty there.
No,
There's not a lot to guess about.
Right. And that's not to say that because this thing is real and been happening and it's actually just unbelievably, I mean, you know, the interesting thing actually, let's say, the Epstein thing has actually taken various politicians down in the UK. It hasn't in the US, but it's actually taken people out in other countries, including like the UK, right? So that's a
Norway's being rocked.
Norway, yeah. So okay.
But I wanted to bring this up because I forgot to bring up this important formula.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the formula of desire, the Lacanian psychoanalytical one, and the dollar sign is for the split subject. It's the idea that, like what Nina was saying so well a couple of times, that, you know, we don't know the stuff that we can't really know what we know or why we do what we do. You can never know what another person actually thinks or feels, and then you bring that up to like these kind of superordinate things about the nation or the economy or the church or, you know, the global satanic pedophile cult or whatever it is. So we're split subjects. We're anxious. We're desiring. You'll never know. It's very neurotic out there. And then the small a represents what we think we want. So it could be for this Epstein Files. We want to know. We want to know what's going on. We want to know who's involved. We want to know how far this goes. We want to have a complete mapping of this secret network and all this stuff. And then that's going to give us insights or confirmation or whatever. We're going to have this knowledge. We're going to have this, you know, it's just going to be so important to get us through all these things that ail us. And then the symbol in the middle is our relationship to that, which, as I understand, and I'm going to ask you to, and I want you to flesh out what got wrong, is that the diamond in the middle is kind of like the story, the fantasy that explains what's keeping us from getting to the other side of this diamond. So what information do we have to have? What files do we have to get? Which people are in the way? Which ideas are in the way? And, you know, that's keeping us, that's denying us from getting this thing that we're convinced that we want. And that with the formula of desire, we think we want, it's all about the A, what's on the A side equation, but actually where all the psychic and libidinal and the desire and the enjoyment come from has to do with the obstacles. So there's all this focus on the obstacles. Which is why I think that when you mentioned Chomsky's wife's letter, that you could look at that and be like, okay, we have the files now that goes that, we have what she said, so we can look at, that's enough information, and then people can decide, you know, whatever they want to decide. But the people immediately, it's like, no, that's not it. They weren't going to accept that version of the events. And I think that the thing is that there's this thing about this barrier, not wanting to. It's like we don't want to get to the other. We think we want to get to the other side, to where the destination is, but actually we really don't. And that's also comes to the thing like the last file. Like the last file would be crazy because either people won't accept this is the last Epstein file, or it's so erotic because of all the redactions and, you know, like what's behind the redaction and then the coding and all this stuff. That this is the idea that even though it's having all these bad effects, all these negative effects and the stress, that people who are invested in it don't want it to ever end, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I mean, it's like, just to go back to like Chomsky's wife's letter. So I've seen a lot of people being incredibly suspicious of her as a character, like people saying, oh, she's his handler, she's so much younger. We've got the
gold digger. Maybe she's a gold digger.
Oh, right. Sure, whatever. And you know, all of this stuff, right? That she herself is not. And I mean, you see this also with like Erica Kirk, or I mean, many other kind of high-profile women, I guess, like a deep suspicion, right? So what we're talking about here, and I think with the last file idea, which again I think is a great piece, some people should read by Tara, is like this the idea that being suspicious is in and of itself a kind of greater mode of knowing, right? So basically it's like, right, Chomsky's wife, and this is to do with language itself in a certain way, because we can never quite communicate exactly what it is that we want to communicate. We can never quite fully be read. So if you turn that into a kind of reading structure of reading, which is just profoundly suspicious, and this was, you know, this is like made into an academic method, to be honest. It's like, so Chomsky's wife's letter, right? She may think, oh, this is like me being as honest as I possibly can. I'm trying to give you all the dates. I'm trying to tell you what I think was going on, what we knew when we knew it, how Chomsky is with people, blah, 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 right? But nobody, almost nobody, is going to take it at face value, like you say. People are going to say, oh, right. And by doing so, they're going to basically be saying, well, I know better, right? Like I know better than Chomsky's wife. What really?
Chris Hedges, he knew exactly what was going on.
Right. So like, again, there's a kind of reassertion of certainty, right, in the part of the reader, you know. And I think we've seen this so much, like in the past decade or so, where people are like, here is a reading, right? It's my reading of this, but I'm going to say it's the reading, right? There is only one way to read this, and even if it's the person there going like, no, that's not what I meant, or this was a joke, or like I was being deliberately ironic, right? The literalist, who may or may not be pretending, in fact, to understand that there are often more than one way of reading something, or the question of context is important. The literalist, usually for political reasons, will say, no, this is what you meant. And you meant only this. And this is what you meant for all time. And there's no other way of understanding it. Right. And I've had people to do this to me, but it's a very common experience now, where it's like, no, this is what you meant. And you're there going, I really, really didn't mean that. Like, here is all the ways in which I didn't mean that. But it doesn't matter, because what we're talking about here is like narrative control, right? And it's so fast. So it's like, if you can get your story, like, to go to your diagram, the Lacanian diagram, it's like your story wins. Like the fast story, the simple story wins, right? And this is the diagram for the structure of fantasy, I think, right? So you've got the bard's the diamond and the small a. So like the diamond, like, is this, as you say, like relation, but it's like bigger than and greater than, like the mathematical thing on both sides, and less than. So it's sort of in the way, but like there's a way in which like what we want is always going to be in the form of a story. So we're going to like say this is like, or we might tell ourselves a story. Like, I don't know if you've ever decided that you fancy someone. Okay, maybe you do fancy someone, but you don't have direct access to that in a way. What you have access to is something like your decision, like the story you've told yourself about like who you want and why you want them. And it could have very little relationship to the reality of this person, which you're not going to actually know necessarily, right? And because you don't know what it is. Like,
well, a good example of that is, I remember, and you probably had this. Maybe you haven't, but maybe no one would ever ghost you, Nina. But when you have a good, you think that you hit it off with somebody, and they ask for your number, and then they never call you, or you have or the kind of the player, like they like the whole, like, he's just not that into you, and we just do not want to accept it. It's like, oh, well, maybe he has commitment issues, or he's busy, or he's got this whole story for why it can't be the most obvious thing, which is he's just not enough to you to call you.
Yeah. I mean, my attitude towards relationships is probably a bit weird insofar as I would never use the apps or dating. Like, I just randomly walk around the universe, and then periodically I like go out with someone or marry them. and I never have. It's very, very like chaotic, and it's not chaotic. It's very contingent in the sense that like, but it would also be fine if I never did. You know what I mean? But I did meet someone during lockdown, of course, because of course you're going to meet someone during lockdown, in a disused swimming pool, and so, but I don't know how to put it. So, but this question of ghosting, I have been thinking about this in relation to friends, right? Like, so I have had this very direct and emotive experience of the unknowability, right? To go back to our question about unknowing, it's actually very, very difficult to live in a state of unknowing. So I have somebody who I have been in contact with. We have not been in contact for a while. I've tried to make communication. There's been no response. There's nothing wrong. We never fell out. We didn't fall out. I don't know if there's something really bad going on with this person. I don't want to ask because I feel like I've already messaged too many times, or whether they're upset with me because of something I've written. I don't know, right? And the thing is, I've now decided that I have to accept and even embrace and even like the unknowability, right? I have to say, I don't know. Maybe I'll never know. Maybe there is something going on that I can't understand. It's fine, right? I just have to accept that I don't know. And I think this is something that's very difficult, like in the kind of ecstasy of communication and the excess of like the sort of technologized language, because partly because what is rewarded is the story, right? The immediate, the hot take, or like the assertion, and of course, we know that the algorithm will reward extreme claims because, of course, they generate.
So deep state gnome, Chomsky's email will make you sick, end of a legacy,
Right.
you know, seduced by power. and I think maybe this would be a good time to also get your take on the quilting point. What I want to write up, because you know, I'm really using this, and now I'm also, you know, capitalizing, exploiting on the Chomsky Pillory, because it's an entry point to these more abstract issues. But this Chomsky quilting point, and there was this guy, and I'll just put it up here, just an example. So I can't remember his name, but and look at that beard. He's in a Gevork something or other, and he talks a lot about Syria and the Middle East. And him and this, I don't know who this other guy is, but they had this, their take was, they basically said, like, it was always so confusing, you know. They brought up like BDS, they brought up his some statement of his on the Kurds, that he has spoken fondly in the past about, I guess he went on a kibbutz when he was a teenager or something, like literally like in the 30s or and it was always so confusing. But now it all makes sense. You know, now it all makes sense. And I'm like, this is and because Epstein is so potent, you know, it does so much of the heavy lifting. And again, cast this, you know, all this tawdriness and the intrigue and the whatever it is, like you mentioned it, anything you want in there is in there. It's like this kind of skeleton key hermeneutic, this kind of Epstein quilting point, and you see it everywhere now. And I think that at one level it's conscious, because, you know, like look, you know, Epstein, like, you know, look, everything we ever said about this guy, like if the communists are having a field day, you know, like, look, this is how he should be remembered. He was, I'll put it up because it's as an example. So let me see if I can find it. So where is it?
Oh, hang on one sec. Keep going. I'll be back.
Oh, all right. So this was from today. Nina is going to be back in a minute. And I don't know if she saw this or not, so it's actually for her to see. Hey, Nina, thank you. Yes. So anyway, this came out today, and so this is from the Communists, which is the Communist Party, Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist. Noam Chomsky was appointed by the billionaire elite to be the ringleader of the Western academic left. On what basis? He was their man, a creature of the establishment, and the Trotskyists, so the revisionist communists, socialist workers, socialist party, all of them now, revisionist, anarchist, the petty bourgeois, left labor imperialists, loved him. They're in shock. The counter-revolutionary politics essence and role stands fully revealed. Listen, here we go. They are the Epstein, Chomsky, anarcho, Trotskyite, imperialist left. I would say that the master signifier, the quilting point, is Epstein in that chain. Mm-hmm. And I just thought this is like a preamble of like the last 110 years of beef between or whatever it was. When did it start? I guess it'd be after, I don't know when the thing started between the people who were pro-Soviet Union and not. But I just is like, okay, they have their story and they're sticking to it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the sort of probably what would hurt Chomsky the most in that would be imperialist, right? Because
so in terms of if we just, and I'm sorry, if we put it in terms of this diagram, it's quite clear what the communists see the obstacle to socialism is.
Yeah.
That's all right in there. And so what I also think, and this kind of to bring it back to the political, when you're talking about the unknowing and just and whatever, but also the defense mechanism, because when I look at them, I'm like, isn't it? And this is, I'm just picking on them because I saw that right before we came on air, and I've been tracking that part of the show trial, let's say, the distributed show trial online, is that but for Chomsky, I mean, look at this, but for Chomsky, like there would be what, global socialism? There'd be the UK right. It's like how the power they're attributing to him is just ridiculous. It's like, I remember like, it also, like maybe they would have something if it was like when he first came on the scene and there wasn't very many people doing the intellectual, like the public dissent. And there was a time when you'd have some posters on the teenage wall. It's like, do they really think that they have to pry people away from the Chomsky cult? It just seems bonkers to me. But in their fantasy, I'm sure it makes total sense.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen this over and over and over again, right? And I think in many ways the progressive left are kind of structured in this way, that there is an obstacle and that if only we can remove the obstacle, then we will get what we want, right? Like, I totally agree. And this is why you end up with like kind of murderousness, for example. And I suppose part of the fantasy might involve like, well, if we just assassinate this person, like, then we will get what we want, right? And everybody will understand what it is that we understand, right? Because we understand the world, right? All we need to do is like kill more CEOs. We need to kill more Charlie Kirks. We need to, assassinate.
We round up the kulaks and put them in the gulag.
Right. Like, the obstacle then becomes like precisely the fantasy, right? Like if we can just get rid of the obstacle, then everything will be fine.
And just on that note, I just want to throw some things out there because this is all, again, goes into the left's, I guess we kind of moved there, the left's gaping lack, what we mean. I'm just going to read a couple more things into the record. And then if you would, however you want, talk about what the left's gaping lack is and why that causes them so many problems and in terms of how they fill it.
Okay.
Or whatever you want to do. But this is just, I went online to pick some things out. So this I think you'll find kind of funny. Chomsky might be a pedophile, but at least the left has Sartre, Foucault, Deleuze, and Derrida. And somebody else picked up on this and they were saying like, and they were presenting it like Chomsky was one of this, like the Western left, and they listed like Chomsky and like all his friends. And to me, it's so funny because I put tabloid left brain rot because first of all, you can look up the Foucault Chomsky debate, and Foucault and Chomsky had no patience for anything that became known as French theory. I mean, none.
No, of course. And so Okay. I mean, obviously it's a joke, but I think it's like, we know that like Sartre did like, and de Beauvoir had all kinds of like sexual liaisons, right? Foucault obviously was accused a few years of like raping underage Tunisian boys, which was not verified as a claim. And I think
people want to also blame him for the gender ideology. Because
Well,
maybe it's because of the I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we should just keep it on this. Yeah.
no, I mean, I think there's an argument you could, but I mean, most Foucauldians are not like very good Foucauldians, right? Like they don't, you know, what in many ways what he was talking about with the kind of new sort of flexible forms of categorization, whether these were new traps, in fact, you know, and these were just new ways of creating new subjects and so on. So if you wanted to be kind of like loyal to Foucault, you would actually be very suspicious of anyone coming along and saying, here are new ways of like categorizing and measuring the subject. Do you know what I mean? But, and, you know, and I mean, Deleuze, you could possibly argue that his philosophy is because it talks about desire, is on the side of a certain kind of libertinism, but it's not like Deleuze was not personally accused, I don't think, and neither was Derrida, of like sexual impropriety.
He was trying to clean house. It's like year zero type of stuff.
Right, but I think that quote was a joke. I think it's a joke, isn't it, about like about the left, right? It's a joke about precisely this kind of friend enemy distinction. Oh well, I like this theorist, therefore I will excuse whatever.
Yeah, well, the manipulism of it, and also that, and it's kind of, again, it's the power I think, and I could get it, like for people who are in academia or you're like around these thinkers to think they have an outsourced thing. But I think again it's this thing like, well, but for the academic Marxists, you know, or but for deconstruction, you know. The whole neoliberal thing wouldn't have happened, and all, you know, like they really want to. I think it's this desire, especially on the pro-communist or whatever you want to call it, like I'm just going to say Stalinist, and what I mean by that is Marxist, Leninist, Stalinist, that type, or you know, thing is that they don't have to look at anything internally. This is classic. It's like, you know, it's like. It's all like the internal taint and the external threat. Their plan, their process, what they have to do is fine. So, but for the CIA, but for Adorno, but for now Chomsky, you know, it would be so much better. And I think, and I want to ask you about this. Do you think that part of that, the one level of it is that when you're playing the finger out, you don't have to deal with the internal ambiguities and failures and all that. But I think, you know, who they really would like to blame and they can't is the workers, is the people, is the working class. They can't blame them. Yeah. So we have to blame all these other people.
Well,
and
the left has been blaming
the workers. Listen to them. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the left have been blaming the workers for decades. I mean, it's like they've cut themselves off from the workers explicitly in some cases. Like Labour basically cut the ties, you know, with the working class decades ago. And I mean, like to go back to the rape gang situation in the UK, I mean, this is like very evidently a punishment of like people, girls primarily, who are genuinely working class, right? Or proletarianized or
lumpen. The question I was asking is that why can't parties like the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninists, why do they struggle so hard to build any membership? Why can't they get the people, the workers, to listen to them? And the reason why they'll tell you is because, well, the workers are lied to. They're confused because they read a Chomsky book, or they're getting all confused in university, and they're getting confused by the news. And but for that, our ranks would swell. And
I mean,
that's what I meant. I mean, I totally get it. I mean, yeah. The workers are there for the picking, you know, hence the populism, wouldn't you say, being so popular?
Yeah. I mean, this is like a false consciousness position, right? Like the workers are suffering from false consciousness, and, you know, they're basically living in a kind of illusion. I mean, and we can see clearly and we can explain things, but somehow we can't get through, either because of these obstacles or because the working class themselves are bad, right? Like, oh, these are gammon, these are racist, these are like, you know, whatever. That would be another kind of liberal. And, you know, we've got to say that the left, the liberal left, the progressive left is extremely middle class to upper middle class, right? In terms of its composition, it is the people who work for universities, art galleries, libraries, the lanyard class, so to speak, right? This is who they are. this
Mhm.
ideology is the ideology of the bourgeoisie, actually. I think there's a sense in which
Isn't it so funny? Like, what could be more? What could be more Western Marxists or what they think they're critiquing than thinking that Chomsky is an actual obstacle to them, um,
Mhm.
uh, their party strengthening and them being able to reach more workers. I mean, it's just like, I mean, and when shows like, because that's workable, yeah. Especially when this comes up along, you can call somebody all kinds of names. You can point out, you can use them as an example. Okay, and that's enjoyable. But in terms of actually increasing your membership and increasing your ability to influence the narrative, it just seems like, I don't know. Does it make sense to have this cancellation campaign of Chomsky is the thing that's going to organize workers in any place? So like in the towns that you talked about, so the towns hit hardest by austerity, and also where these rape gangs were allowed to flourish. I don't think Chomsky's bad as it could be an inroad.
no, and like that's
They
not
might.
perhaps the function that this is serving, right? Like, to go back to the kind of enjoyment point and like the laziness point in a way, like, oh, like it's like when you hear people say, or people write like, oh, I always knew there was something wrong with X or
Mhm,
Y, right? Like,
mhm,
again, it's this like superior knowledge, right? Oh,
mhm,
my suspicion was like
mhm,
warranted. And I mean, there are people who walk around calling like literally everyone a fascist, and then at any point, like if they say something you don't like, you can go, hey, see, look, I told you, like,
yeah.
but you could literally do that with anything.
Mhm.
It's like,
Well,
it's
have
not
you noticed maybe not this whole Parenti thing? So
right.
Michael Parenti died, 2 weeks ago, maybe. Oh no,
Mhm.
it was. I think it was the end of January. And then you have this tranche of the Epstein thing. So now there's the kind of the Marxist Leninist revivalist online brigades are being like, you know, uh, basically like cancel, like let's like literally like let's remove Chomsky from the library and the reading list and all this stuff, and we'll replace him with Michael Parenti. There's this whole thing that's going on, and I'm like, and my thing is like, what I would suggest people do is read both of them. Read Parenti, read Chomsky, make up your own mind. I found value in both of them. And of course, and making a lot of this thing like, well, he was mean to Michael Parenti because he dismissed the JFK thing. And
Mhm.
it's like, again, like you mentioned, they have this thing like, and there's people on the 9/11 thing, because he never apparently, and I didn't know this until now, that he never was interested in like these stories about the quote unquote truth of 9/11, or the quote unquote truth of the JFK thing. And then like, well, because he was elitist, and they're making the argument that, well, that would have gotten in trouble with his liberal darlings, and that's why he wasn't interested in it. It's like he hadn't already had issues, like his politics already had issues with that. It's like, I don't see anything in his past. Again, I'm being logical. I don't see anything in his past. Again, I don't have special knowledge to him that would make me think that if he really was interested in pursuing that line of research with JFK or 9/11, that he wouldn't have done it, because he wouldn't have gotten invited to as many, donor events at MIT.
Mm.
It's like,
No, sure. I mean, I think the problem with the sort of cynical take on everything is like, maybe sometimes you'll hit the jackpot, like
mhm,
you'll be right about it, but it
mhm,
also creates a world in which you yourself see everything cynically, right? Like, I
mhm,
think this is why in the what's the Bible verse about, like serpents and lambs, right? Like,
mhm,
think like a serpent, but act like a lamb, or something like that,
mhm.
or act
I was
like a
thinking about
dove.
Nietzsche today too, the other, like, don't stare too long into the abyss, or the abyss
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
step into you. I was
exactly.
also thinking about
Huh?
Toni yeah, it was Toni Morrison. I don't know if you ever saw that interview of her when she was, and she has just, just this, she had a great presence, but she was saying that, um, uh, how her dad was actually a racist or a bigot, like against white people, and his thing was, and she said something like, talking about racism, and saying, if you can only feel good by tearing down some other person, or tearing down some other group, I think that's basically like, I think that's a problem, and that you should look at that. It has nothing to do with me. And I was thinking about this over and over again. If your party or your political movement or your whatever it is, whatever your goal is, if you can only achieve that by just not just disagreeing or opposing somebody, but like obliterating them or needing to obliterate them, and not like a structural thing, like we want to maybe not have billionaires anymore, this type of thing. Or you want to have, economic democracy. But I'm like, and I was thinking about that a lot because there's something really dark about this. And just, I'm also beginning to realize why the Marxist-Leninist side of things have such a hard-on for Hannah Arendt's totalitarian book. Yeah, because I'm like, it's like, I see with the left or the right or the center, there's always this possibility of totalitarian or authoritarian. Like you mentioned, like a particular group or for a particular reason, there's this justification. And the idea that possibility or desire or eruption is only on the right, or only on it's just like, I'm like, I can't make myself believe that anymore.
No, sure. I mean, I think there are left wings and right wing forms of authoritarianism, and I mean, of course there are, and historically, and also in the political tendency that people might have today. I think, yeah, it's like I say, that people are prone to hypocrisy, like we all are. We're prone to mobbing. We're prone to like simple stories. We love them. We like to see our enemies punished and our friends rewarded, and these people might change, and we might at one point go like, yeah, well, that was terrible when he did it, but now it's fine when he did it, or whatever. And but I think to go, maybe the sort of overall point I'm sort of trying to make is this thing about, it's really about knowledge, and perhaps when we're talking about class war in the age of like the internet, this is really like a knowledge war. This is a war over knowledge that is part that still retains the characteristic of a class war, insofar as like, part of what is going on maybe with the enjoyment is, now we have knowledge of the elites that we can then use against the elites themselves, right? Like there is the sort of pleasure in taken in, I suppose, like revealing that the emperor has no clothes, or to say like, hey, we got you, we caught you doing something you shouldn't be doing, whatever it is, and we're going to say what it is, right? Because we don't know, but we're going to like make some claims. And it's not so much about justice. I mean, obviously, if we were going to start talking about bringing cases against people or the legal things that have already happened, that stuff is slow. It doesn't give you the immediate gratification of seeing somebody brought low. I mean, this is what social media does give you, is the immediate thrill of the
ratio. The ratio to somebody.
Being, like, what's that thing about nobody wants to be the main character on X today or whatever? Like, everyone's trying to avoid it. So and maybe you might say, well, okay, maybe this is like how it always is. This is the gleeful expression, the democratic populist word.
It's just intensified because of the level of interaction, maybe.
Yeah.
And the number of people involved, yeah. So I was thinking, like, again, to just when I was going through all the thumbnails the other day on the Chomsky, and I'm thinking back, like, it's also, we're going through the kind of a wild west with new media, is going on, and who do you just trying to find out like basic facts on a story can be really daunting sometimes. Like, I just want to know, like, what actually do we know for sure has actually happened. That you get so many people now. I remember back, I don't want to age you, but I remember back when I was a young lass, and there was three channels on the TV, and we had the Oregonian that we got every day. I grew up in Oregon, and that was that. You didn't have this cacophony, this all these takes and all these images and people trying to, get the likes and whatever. And I'm not, obviously I'm trying to I also want to have a successful podcast. So, it's like there's the game. I get that you have to, have your thumbnail and have your clickbait and have your segment that's, exposing Chomsky or, whatever it is. But do you think there's kind of like this, like maybe there's the kind of a defense mechanism just to kind of, we're going to see more people not being like, oh, this is great, we have all these sorts of information, but going back to like, I just want one or two. That's it. I think the responsibility of comparing and contrasting, it's just too much.
But I think all of this is taking place in the context of actually like the governmental crackdown. I mean, particularly we see it in Europe, like Spain and UK, on like there's a definite bid for digital ID, the total eradication of anonymity, the removal of, let's say, places like X and the pub in real life, where people can discuss, where normal people can discuss things in a certain way. So like, perhaps one of the things we might have to say is that this is like all of this jouissance, this joy, this like paddling around, splashing around with people's names and so on, when it's not based in knowledge or maybe even defamatory, probably in some cases, and there's a wildness to it and a freedom. Like this is actually what like dialogue looks like collectively at scale with minimal oversight, which is precisely what is the government seem to want to do. And we know, like, for example, with the rape cases in the UK, like these were resurrected as an object of discourse by Elon Musk on X, right? And that we wouldn't be in this situation where it's like really, really a big problem for the current government and the previous governments, everybody who's covered it up. And it's partly precisely because Musk has this platform in which this was discussed and brought back into light, because it was never solved. It was basically like hidden for decades. So, I'm sort of, it's like, I think they're just, this diagnosis that we're doing is like necessary. And I think, but it's never going to go away insofar as like the sort of paddling pool of excess and is like, that's where we are. And actually, if we didn't have that and it was sort of strictly regulated and everyone had to post under their own name and, the government were more obviously surveilling everything you do, even though they are doing that already, we would have less of that. Do you know what I mean? There would, like, you might be right that there is an exhaustion. And like I say, I do think the part of cancel culture is simply like relief that you no longer have to like pay any attention to. You just cut them out on the basis of like what they've allegedly done or who they were friends with or their identity or whatever. So the shortcut thing. But I think, I don't know, I'm very worried about the kind of government crackdown.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I didn't mean to make a pitch for censorship.
No.
I just like kind of like this is just gonna like, of course, with the morbid symptoms, the interregnum, and this is just kind of like, this it is what it is. But I want to push one. I want precious isn't the right word. But when you're talking about knowledge, and of course I realize that knowledge is not separate from enjoyment, but in terms of, at least my understanding, kind of a Zizekian ideological approach, and people like Todd McGowan doing a lot of this, the idea that what grips people politically, I mean, they might come for the policy or the whatever, but what grips them is the economy of enjoyment or the structure of enjoyment. Yeah. And so that if you want to, and so if we keep, and he wants to make the argument that what the left's really bad at is realizing that they want to deal with the right's enjoyment. Via knowledge. They want like fact check Trump. They want to like show like, look, he said this, but he did this or whatever, not realizing, of course, their argument that he's communicating with his quote unquote base, not at the level of facts and knowledge, not that there's not there, but the level of desire and enjoyment and transgressiveness and that. And if you can't give people something at that level, then you're going to have a problem. And so, but what I don't know if you're familiar with his work on this. What I find is that when he's talking about the right, really good. But when he talks about the left enjoyment, he stops at, well, they're just like they don't really think about it enough. They're not conscious enough about the level of enjoyment. Not talking about the cancel culture enjoyment or the sanctification of the trans kid or any of that stuff. No, it's only just because they're just too cerebral. You know, they're just thinking about. They're focusing on the wrong. They're wanting to fact check an ideological battle that's happening at the level of the psyche, not the level of consciousness. And I was wondering what your take is on that kind of understanding of why the left keeps on losing the battle of enjoyment to the right.
Well,
you would explain it.
I mean, you could say that actually the enjoyment is in the perception of themselves as losers. You know, that actually, because I do think this is a story that the people on the left have to constantly tell themselves. It's like, you know, oh, okay, even if they're like, basically they've got their politics in power in all these institutions and all this stuff is being repeated, the ideology at least is being repeated, they're still never in power, right? They still have no cultural power, they have no political power, they have no economic power, right? So you might want to say that the kind of libidinal attachment is to a certain kind of like weird total passivity and loserdom, even or especially when they have actually taken power in some ways. Like there is just this like never acknowledged, like they're always the underdog. Like why do people want to be the underdog? Well, you know, the victimhood, and either it's them, like either they're the victim or they're speaking on behalf of victims, right? Like, so there's a kind of symbolic martyrdom, like, you know, there will always be people who are suffering, right? People are dying, people are suffering. I am the person for whom other people's suffering is my pain, you know, like there is a sort of martyrdom and a sense of urgency. I was trying to write about this recently on X, about this sort of sense of urgency, like something is wrong, like there is injustice in the universe. There's a kind of like frantic Gnosticism about it, like we must fix the problem. I was trying to think about this in relation to the people who are coming out and contesting ICE, you know, with guns and so on, and the two sort of deaths there, and whether there is a sense in which, you know, the martyrdom and self-sacrifice in the name of the other, right? Like I'm doing this for the other who suffers more than me because I have privilege. You know, whether it's like immolation, whether it's, you know, like, so there it's sort of both. It's like this kind of hatred of the perceived right enjoyment, like the right are obscene, the right, you know, but of course the left enjoyment, like when Charlie Kirk was murdered, was also obscene. I mean, it was horrific, actually, you know, like people making videos about like how happy they were and so on. Whether what the degree to which this is performance, like is this real emotion? Do they really feel like that? Are they, you know, are people simply saying it because they think, I don't know, like that's what they ought to say? It's not really clear. But I think it's something like, yeah, this fetishization of losing even while winning somehow, like this is the subject position, which is very powerful.
Do you think it's also part of like, I don't know, not wanting, they don't have to take a responsibility, yeah?
Right.
If you're just the one that says, okay, that's not good, that's not right, that's not fair, and you're not the one that has to figure out, okay, we gotta keep this ship going. Then it's I know what you're saying, because when with again the gender example, when we're told constantly this particular group of people has no power, and we're like, but they have all the power behind them.
Totally.
You know, it's like, what are you talking about? Dylan Mulvaney is hanging out with the president. There's pride flags and trans flags back when that was everywhere. You know? But no, it was just like, okay.
Right. Then, so this it's kind of apex in the fantasy of, like, let's say trans genocide, right? Like there is no trans genocide. Okay, what is going on here? Like with this projected fantasy, which is also horrific. I mean, if there really were, this would obviously be horrendous, right? So they don't mean they don't mean those words in the precise way, right? Like they don't mean genocide. They don't mean the deliberate mass slaughter of people qua members of a group, right? On the basis of ethnicity. Okay, that trans is not an ethnicity, but let's say on the basis of identity, right? We know this isn't happening. Okay, but what is going on with this claim, right? This is a claim. It's like a confession. It's like this is a desire, right?
And then the performance, the Day of Remembrance, when you have to like this whole ritual that goes around it.
It's like,
no one really believes it, but everyone thinks other people believe it.
Well, but I think it's like this claim on victimhood, right? Because in the economy of victimhood, like it's very powerful. So people are competing to be the biggest victim, right? No, it's our group. No, it's me. No, it's this other group. So there's a kind of competition, like a rivalry, right? Of lack in that sense. Like, we are the group that suffers the most. Somehow.
Well, on that note, I have got to pop this up. This cracked me up, and this is how I know that either the world has broken me, or I'm somehow onto something. Like I can laugh at the Epstein stuff. And so this was at the Bondi. Pam Bondi was in Congress. I guess it was yesterday or the day before, and she was being grilled about the Epstein stuff. And so then Thomas Massey got to come up, and they got to have all the files, some of the files, and talk about why is this redacted, why is this, why, and showing these things with like the big black squares, and that were just, of course, so titillating. Like, we have to, what's behind that square? That's where the answer is, or why is Pam Bondi, hiding the square? But at some point, a group of Epstein victims, alleged victims, and I'm going to say allegedly because he was never there was never a court thing or whatever. So this alleged victims, they got up behind her and they raised their hands about because they asked who the Epstein victims were. And if you'll notice, this guy here, number 7, Sky Roberts, he's a brother of a victim who has passed away.
Yeah.
So he gets to like, I guess so she maybe bequeathed him her victimhood and her survivorship in the will. I don't know. So this guy goes around, and he's one of the guys, I guess, who whenever you need a group of Epstein victims, he shows up to stand in for his dead sister.
I mean, look, I have no doubt
there's something weird. I find there's something odd about that.
Sure. I mean, I've no doubt he's very sad at the loss of his sister, right? Like there is genuine grief and suffering here. You know what I mean? But I think this
we're
again.
Assuming, I mean, I know nothing about the relationship. No.
Sure, but like let's say the fantasy that you can lay all of this pain and suffering at the feet of one person, right? That's the desire in a sense, right? Like if only we can name this person and we can say that this person did everything and okay, maybe there's complicity with other elites or I mean, as we know, the only person in prison for any of this is Ghislaine Maxwell, right? So the woman
say that name. She's British. Yeah, it's like Ghislaine. I don't remember how to say her name.
I think it's Ghislaine, but I'm not really
sure. Okay.
Ghislaine, I think. Anyway, but she's the only one who is in prison for trafficking, right? I think, or whatever the charge is.
Yeah, she's for trafficking.
So. Okay, and of course, then everyone was saying, well, why is she the only person in prison? Like, who is she trafficking to? The answer is Epstein, right? According to her case, right? So she trafficked girls to Epstein. That's the charge. That's what she was found guilty of. Then the question is, well, assuming that these largely men came to the island and did things with the girls that were trafficked, then did any of them commit a crime, right? So then the question of like the
also were the girls trafficked?
Right. And of course, trafficking sounds
they were transported. That's true.
Right. So trafficking sounds extreme. It's not really a word. It's a word that's only really used, I think, like when things are very criminal, right? It's like
Well, I
Right.
was thinking about this because when this, again, the category, and again, I don't know anything about Sky Roberts, but I know that he's the brother of Virginia Guthrie, and she has been the one that so far has had won the was awarded the most money in civil suits. I just thought that because at first I thought, oh, is someone transitioned, and then I realized it was somebody's brother, and I was like, okay.
Mhm.
Oh crap, what was I gonna? I don't know if there was something. I lost it. Oh, crap. Oh, yeah. I was thinking about this category stretching now because then we get to be more upset. We can coat more activities and actions with trafficking, with non-consensual sex, with whatever it is, and people, like if they were 18 or because one of the things that Michael Tracy's mentioning, at least to the extent that he's not lying about what he finds in the files, is that so far all of the victims who come out and identify themselves as victims had interactions with Epstein when they were adults, but yet he keeps them being called like this pedophile, right? Because pedophile obviously has a taboo term. I'm assuming everywhere. So which used to mean people that have sex or are sexually attracted or act of that attraction with prepubescent kids. And now apparently it means 17, 18, 19, I don't know. And I was thinking to myself, when I was 16, I was a bad girl. I liked older guys, not old guys, but older guys. And so I'm thinking, were two of my boyfriends when I was 16 and 17, were they pedophiles? I mean,
Sure, right.
one was 20, one was 22. I'm like, when they picked me up in their car and drove me, and we drove from Washington, because where we live, across the water to Portland, Oregon, was I trafficked? I'm like,
Yeah.
if they have money now, can I shake them down?
I think there's this deeper.
Nina, was I a victim?
If you want to be, Tara. I mean, I think there is this sort of deeper.
I didn't know.
No, I know. Well, now you know, and maybe you can sue them or something. I think
I'm sorry. Again, I know that you're not supposed to laugh at this stuff, but just lately I'm like, it just becomes so fantastical that anyway.
No, I mean, look, we have this completely divided society in a way, right? On the one hand, we have sexual liberation. Oh, sex is good. Oh, as long as there's consent, it's fine. Age is just okay, it's just this state, this state, this state.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a moral, spiritual, religious question. Sex is everywhere. You should have sex. Sex is good, whatever, right? We live in the post-Christian, sexually liberated society. Okay. Right.
I'm sorry, just to stop you there again, because I forgot. I wanted to mention the contradictions with this, especially because we're focusing on the left, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the sex workers work and all this stuff,
yeah.
But apparently, even if the girls are saying that, and you have these again, it's really voyeuristic, but they're talking about how nice he is, and and trying to basically. Saying, hey, go to this guy. It's a nice place. He'll give you $200 if they ask your age, tell them you're 18, and you don't have. And again, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. So first it's just a massage, and then maybe it's a massage and you have your shirt off, and then maybe the third time it's a massage and he masturbates at the end of it, which of course he's grooming. It's a grooming thing, because that's I don't want to say that is in any way a morally good thing that he did, but it's also the case that if a 17-year-old or 18-year-old girl or young woman, just friends telling her about, hey man, we could go here, it's great, and he'll buy you stuff, and then they're like, oh great, and they themselves don't see themselves as a victim and don't want to be kind of way, but it's like, no, you're a victim. You had no idea what you were doing. And then at the same point, these same people, I wonder if we could go back in time. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be an internet archaeologist. If they would also be sex workers work, and also remember all the stuff that went on with the sex ed, the kind of the explicitness, how explicit sex ed was getting, and also at younger and younger ages. So you have all this, but at the same point, with this argument, somehow adolescence keeps on getting stretched longer and longer and longer.
Yeah. So look, I mean,
and then again, all the nuance, because not every 17-year-old or 18-year-old or 16-year-old is the same.
Right. I mean, look, the people who are saying, who are kind of up in arms in this kind of, I don't know, quasi puritanical way about, you know, about.
Oh, the good thing is, like, what would be the Bill Clinton, and there's Bill Clinton in the hot tub, and then they have a girl. There's a woman there. I don't know how old she is. She looks like she has a svelte body and a bikini, and everyone wants to know who she is and how old she is.
Sure. I mean,
which I get.
An entirely rigorous culture about this stuff would not have any situations in which this thing were possible, right? You would not have unaccompanied girls of any age that were not with their father or their brother or their husband. You know what I mean?
But we go to some guy's house to give him massages after school. I mean,
right. I mean, we live in the wake of the French Revolution and the sexual revolution, right? Like, okay, we don't have to be French for those things to be meaningful, right? But the sexual revolution happened many decades ago, right? We are supposed to live in a world that is neutral to positive about sex, that is for which consent solves all of our problems, in which money is also a form of consent in a kind of this economy. And no one is damaged by sex, right? This is obviously in contradiction with like the therapeutic world, the language of trauma, the language of grooming, the language of power relations, right? And this sort of like, this already happened in MeToo, right? Where in some cases, right? And none of this is to deny, for example, that there aren't serious situations of abuse, of psychological and physical manipulation.
Of course, yeah.
And who knows if some of the women were genuinely seriously underage. Okay, that's a different question, right? But like, take the sort of above the age of consent, so technically adult, technically consenting, either through money or through agreement or whatever, right? So we're not supposed to, nobody is supposed to have a problem with that in the post-religious sexual revolution world, right? This is just business. This is just whatever, like, this is fine. So yeah, but then this kind of does crash or contradict the therapeutic, right? So it's like, well, oh no, actually the power imbalance is too great. Oh no, the age difference is too much, right? Me Too was a kind of very botched attempt in some ways to deal with this, and in many cases I think a lot of let's say bad relationships were retconned as abusive, right? So people could then say, hey, well, actually, this was like, and obviously in some cases they were, right? And obviously in some cases men act like dickheads. Obviously in some cases some women do as well, right? We're all capable of being like harmed and being harmful. We've probably all had like relationships that were like kind of shoddy and we shouldn't have been in them, where people were like not behaving at their best and so on and so forth, right? But this sort of desire for the kind of black and white world, right, in which there is oppressor and oppressed and perpetrator and victim. Okay, a lot of human relationships are not so clear-cut, right? So again, the Epstein thing is like, but what if they were? What if we could say definitively, right, like, that these kinds of relationships are bad and abusive, and this person is bad, this person is the devil, we can put all of our sins on this person, and have done with it, right? Like, oh, it's fine. We've solved the problem of human sexuality. We've solved the problem of...
And also understand the machinations of the Middle East and the whole, that stuff as well.
We're not going to solve the problem of human sexuality. We're not going to solve the problem of sex and consent under capitalism. We're not going to solve these problems. Like you say, the file.
When we get the last file, then we'll all
that's
know.
why I like the piece so much. I think this is a very good piece. Like, it's really, really insightful, and I think this like.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because it just kind of came out of nowhere. And then last night when I put it up, I thought you should sleep on this because you're tired, But
No,
again,
no,
this tastes like,
really
and
into it.
so I have made a couple of tweets about it helps me that you say that, because I'll work with it a bit more, and I'll pull it up.
No,
here
because
I was so excited when I thought of Tony Soprano.
No, but I think it's
I remember people being so upset about that.
Yeah, I remember that too. I thought it was a good end.
Like, what?
They had to end it. Like, how are you going to end it?
I gotta know.
No, and I think it's no, but I think you're right. It's the fantasy that everything will be solved, right? Maybe that the world will end, if we get the last Epstein file. Like we'll suddenly reconcile all these contradictions. We've got our new Hitler, here's our new demon, right? Yeah. All our sins are on this person. It's all fine.
Everybody, it's a huge sorting hat.
Yeah.
And I've been getting at that with and I try as I might to not stay online too long. Because I've learned, I just need, especially when my main account was canceled because for authenticity, apparently I was like a sex bot or, impersonating myself. And I tried a couple times, but I couldn't get past the firewall. So I was like, whatever. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to try to build this up again. So I was like, I'm just going to get in, check my my list just to see what's going on, get an idea or whatever, post something. But inevitably, I'll see something. And then before I know it, an hour or two goes by. I'm like, Tara, are you 10? Do you need to have your kids put the parent control on your
there you go.
And I know it. You can know. This is a knowledge thing, yeah?
Well, Tara,
stuff. The algorithm is going to give you more of what you respond negatively.
It's led
it's addictive, and it's just like a total interpassive. You think you're doing something, you're getting that rush, and like, yeah, I really solved something, like, going nails out of that person that said human shield.
I mean, it's Lent next week. You have every opportunity to, and Ramadan. You can make a break. I'm gonna lock my ex account for 40 days.
Yeah. like the fetishistic disability. It's like I know, blah 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 blah, but. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna have to in a sec because I haven't had my dinner and it's like.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no.
No. It's 9 o'clock.
Where should we? Okay. I guess what I'll do, because since we're part of the problem, you have a PhD, I have a PhD. You've published books. I haven't. Inshallah, maybe one day. I have some articles in India, but it's very niche. But now my podcast, my Substack.
No, keep writing.
Since we're part of the bad guys, let's just fully embrace it. Let's fully embrace it.
I'm fine with whatever.
It's like, I am so powerful that I'm the reason why the left sucks. Okay.
Are you manifesting, Tara? You're taking the role of the obstacle. You're like, I will be the obstacle.
Yes. You get me, and you'll, And I have some people who are mad at me. Like, I thought you were a Stalinist. It's like, I had a guy on my show a couple of times who's a, Stalinist, Marxist, Leninist. And him and Jyoti, to be fair, when it comes to critique of, critique outwards, so they're like with imperialism and the UK and all this stuff, great. But where I can't follow the party line, and I couldn't swallow the Stalinist pill. Yeah, we were gonna have an episode like, can he Stalin pill me? Which means I had to go and finally look into that period of time and find the actual historical things that were based off of actual records. Once they open up the files a bit, looking at that stuff, and I quickly realized, no, I would not be taking the Stalinist pill. Because I wanted to be an open mind. Like, yeah, I know about the Cold War, I know about propaganda. So I was like, I'll have an open mind. Like, maybe it was like, this whole thing, like, he did nothing wrong, or anything he did was because of the perfidy on the other side, or, to save Russia, whatever it was. I thought, okay, I'll have an open mind. And I started looking at that. I'm like, yeah, I can't sign on for that.
No, I mean, like,
and then I saw this whole thing, with the Chomsky thing, and I was like, okay, it's like, they were not like, I did like maybe 5 or 6 of the, like, what do they call the reading group things, because I legitimately, for a few years ago, I thought, all my knowledge of this Marxism and all the critical theories, all academia, and I thought I should spend some time to go and check out socialist parties, communist parties, Labor Party, whatever party, and just see what's out there. And now I'm like, I want to go back, and I'm happy with my David Harvey and my Nancy Fraser.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just do that.
And everybody
I'm out now. Oh my God. It's like, I'm the Chomsky fanist libtard now. I'm like, fine, whatever. I never said I was a Stalinist. I never said I was a Marxist-Leninist. I never joined your party.
No, I think, look, the reality is it's hard enough to think for oneself, right? Like it sounds really easy, but it's not easy at all, right? Like we're constantly surrounded by the contingency of what we encounter, peer pressure, social acceptability. It's very hard to pursue truth for its own sake because a lot of the time you come up against things that are like I don't know, like uncertainty, and also, well, what if the truth is really, really unpopular, right? And who doesn't?
Yeah, like I don't think you need to strangle the. I don't think you need to invent kulaks and other things to be able to squeeze all the grain you could out of the countryside in order to rapidly industrialize. And I don't think it's like I could see why you would do that, but I'm not going to say that was fantastic. And if that makes me a terrible person, Nina, then I guess I'm just a terrible libtard, academic Marxist, Western.
How dare you not want millions of people sacrificed in the name of a war economy, Tara? Yeah. You absolute bitch. Like,
I'm just like, okay, it's like, I'm like, I knew myself. I thought, I'm like, no, I'm not. And so it was. I appreciate it because I legitimately I knew that my knowledge of the political history of that period and that type of thing, I knew it was weak, and it was an education, and it was great, but I was like, it wasn't good. It wasn't going to work for me. These are the core texts, and this is what you need, and this is the party line, and these are the this whole list of I don't have to tell you. I was like, that's cool, but I just knew that it wasn't going to be for me.
It's fine, Tara. You do not have to be a Stalinist. I'm here.
But then, I'm telling you, dropped like a hot rock, yo. And then I didn't know, because I didn't know at the time how serious that democratic centralism and that party line was. It's like, you're in or you're out. I was like, okay, now I know. I didn't know. Now I know.
Well, it's a small club, Tara, and you're not in it.
Anyway, yeah. So the last gaping lack, I guess we didn't talk too much about the lack too much. But,
well, I think we did in the sense of like basically saying, that the Epstein thing's like just one big projection fest, like all of the kind of manifest anthropological relationships to desire and the obstacle are all just like out there in extremis, because anything anybody wants is hypothetically there. So the lack, but I think that what we decided, I think, was really this question of the obstacle, right? So that the left's kind of gaping lack, as it were, is the fantasy that if you could only get rid of these obstacles, then we would have this leftist utopia, whatever it is, like whether it's an anarchist
reconciled society.
Yeah. So and this then becomes like often really personalized. Okay, Chomsky, whoever, right? Like, we just need to assassinate some more right-wing people, or we just need to stop ICE or whatever. Like this idea that there is this one weird trick, like one weird trick, assassination or whatever, right?
We'll see. No, let me bring this down. I want to pimp my article. I don't mean that in a sexual way. And I'm going to add to it, like, Nina Power, like this article, yo. Okay. So looking back, so I'm looking at this left now, and so I of course I realize that I'm being, I'm turned up. But first I was thinking in terms of, let me find it. So I was thinking of, also when I was trying to think of the picture I wanted to have about the last file and the ending and how traumatic that can be and how we don't really want it. I was thinking, like, right away I thought, okay, The Sopranos. I also remembered Lost being upsetting because, and then I thought, well, I think a lot of these writers, and I know you're also like, you also do creative writing, but I think that sometimes with these shows, they just bite off more than they can chew. There's no way you can wrap all that up, Sure. But then I thought also the Stranger Things, people are upset about that. They left it ambiguous. You can decide for yourself if the main character is dead or alive. Yeah. And so I was thinking the cannibal, and I'm trying to come up with a term. I'm not settled on one yet. The cannibal tabloid left doesn't realize it. They're too busy feasting. but this show trial by media of Chomsky sends all those not enjoying this political snuff film. I got a lot going on here. One message about the actual existing left: run.
Yeah. But I think this
you do
this
not
thing
want
about
to be
losing,
in
you know,
this interregnum free for all.
Yeah, I think this kind of desire to lose is also like the desire to alienate, right? Because once you can say, hey, well, these people left us, or they betrayed us, or, you know, these people are heretics, it's like you're still the victim, you know, like we've been betrayed. We've been betrayed by these people who just weren't committed enough, or just weren't like,
they were weak. They were
yeah,
weak. Yeah.
you know, and we are still standing, and, you know, so I think it does fit with that, right? Like that analysis.
So, and then I was thinking of periodization, because I was also I was thinking about Jameson, about how to understand this. I was thinking about, I thought, do I want to do the Zizekian Lacanian thing, or did I want to do more, what's it called? Jameson's political unconscious, you know, with the Epstein Files, and how this is kind of sorting at the, well, I don't have to tell you, you know what that means, that it's an allegory. The Epstein Files is this huge allegory through which we're working out all these things that you know, that we can't articulate, or don't know how to articulate, or don't want to see, or whatever it is. But I'm thinking, first of all, do you agree that it's fair to say that we're in some sort of late stage left? And maybe there's like there's these various particular lefts, and then there's like the universal left. And they want, you know, so that this particular left, this particular form of the left, is late stage, you know, going out.
I mean, who knows?
If you agree with that, then I want you to put on your bad intellectual hat, your bourgeois, your petit bourgeois establishment whore hat, along with me, and think about that. You know, when philosophy paints its gray on gray, then has a shape of life grown old. By philosophy's gray on gray, it cannot be rejuvenated, but only understood. I love this. I love this so much. The Owl of Minerva spreads its wings only with the falling of the dusk. So first of all, do you think it could be that this particular form of the left is you know, that we can paint our gray on gray, and to the extent that we can do that, or would be speculative to do that, what would you call it? How would you know, what would you make of this? I guess from like maybe the 60s to this point we're at now, or maybe if we go about the Stalinists, maybe from whenever the Khrushchev the Khrushchev secret speech till now, or whatever, however you want to periodize that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. If we take kind of this question of whether like progressivism has been put away, I mean, there is still a question of reality, and I think like the furthest from reality, that the further it gets from what is actually true, the more trouble you're in. Like, it's harder to maintain a sort of series of stories, and you can only really enforce them through censorship or punishment, right? So we have this issue in the UK. It's like people who notice anything or who comment on what are in trouble, right? Like there are tons and tons of arrests of people saying things about Islam or like whatever. You know, women have had the police come over because they've tweeted things like men can't become women or whatever, men can't be women, and
freedom ring,
right. This is like, so any politics, I think, that strays too far from from nature is like inevitably and probably quite quickly going to be in trouble, right? So I think there's a natural limit to this, right? Because it's not organic. It's like an imposition of a fantasy of I don't know, like a series of assumptions about the liberal blank slate or whatever that are untenable. But so you might say, I mean, if you were a kind of serious class first leftist or something, you might, and some people have, differentiate yourself from the progressive left and say, like, this is not the left, right? Like, this is the left of capital or something, right? Like, this is just the ideology of neoliberalism or
yes, this is great, because what came up with the Chomsky thing is like these people with these sorting hats between the real radicals and the fake radicals. I remember that with the feminists. Well, the feminists who support trans rights, they're not the real feminists. they're fake feminists.
I mean, to be honest, they kind of are, but like,
kind of like, well, and I'm like, why don't we look at all? Why don't we deal with the difficult thing? It's like it's all feminism. Why don't we deal with that? If we're gonna say the truth is in the whole, not everybody does. Then don't you kind of have to like agree with that?
Right. And then it's like, well, what do you call yourself? I call myself this, right? Like this is like but I'm going to call you something else, right? So obviously you have people saying, well, I think you're a fascist. And people say, well, I'm not a fascist. And, oh, well, I think you are. I'm going to call you a fascist, but I'm not a fascist, right? Whatever. Okay. So this endless sort of battle over who gets to call themselves what and who has to go along with it and who can contest it. Sure. I don't know. I suspect that like the progressive left has not really been put away. There's a lot of people who are very, very committed to these ideas and they can't really break from them now. They have to double down. And this stuff moves very, very slowly through the institutions. So a lot of the institutions are just catching up with BLM and with other stuff, you know, like they're kind of working it through. It's not going to be easy. There are an awful lot of people who are like making a lot of money from these ideas, right? Like whether it's in the charity sector or in the arts or academia, right? Like it's also about funding mechanisms. It's a very materialist question. I mean, I would like to see more like leftist materialist work on like who funds what and why. And people are doing that work, and I think this is actually kind of important. It's not. We don't need like transcendental evil to explain things if we've got
Are you saying, Nina, that it's not enough just to ditch Chomsky and read the State and Revolution and Michael Quilting, that it's going to take more than that?
I think this will not be the solution to anybody's problem. I mean, maybe it might make a couple of people feel better for a week.
Read, of course. I would never tell someone, don't read that book. It's evil. It's bad for you.
No, I mean, like, I think anybody who's telling you not to read books is not your friend, right? Like, this is, like, be quiet. I will read what I like, and I will come up with my own ideas about what it means. And obviously, reading books that are controversial does not mean that one is then going to adopt all of the ideas that are in that book, unless we think that nobody can read critically anymore, and that all that.
Nina, I'm such an idiot because I didn't even bring this up because I didn't want to go too much into your cancellation because you're post-cancellation, You're post-cancellation, Nina. Yeah, you know, Phoenix rising from the ashes, she's better than ever. Okay. But I'm not going to go into details, but there was a lot of personal communication between you and somebody that got released. And then people went to town and interpreted it and put in a narrative that was, let's just say, very self-serving to whatever about you.
Yeah, sure.
The person had pissed them off in the last like 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, like,
not that you were involved with an Epstein figure, you know, but that I thought that's kind of the parallel.
No, sure. I mean, well, that's what I was saying.
How you communicate when you think the whole world might see it. So how you communicate if you're just answering an email to somebody.
I don't believe that the people who are misinterpreting things or interpreting things in a very literal way, that in the worst possible way, right? I can't decide. Like, this is a kind of
everybody's autistic now, yeah.
Me. Well, right. Like, do they really believe that there's only one way of reading messages, and it's their way, and it's the worst possible way that paints whoever in the worst possible light? Okay.
The Epstein quilting point.
Right. Is that really what they think, or are they like, is this just a power game where they're like, haha, we can just pretend that this is what was meant? And
like you said, that we can't know because he can't talk. He's never going to be able to wake up and tell us. And like you said, even if he did, there's going to be people who are not going to believe it anyway. It doesn't matter what he says.
So people
can't win for losing. And in that way, his advice, I have to say, his advice in that email was correct.
Yeah, I mean, Chomsky said, like, what did he say? You can't prove that you're not a Nazi.
Yeah, you can't prove.
So the question
I've been targeted for all my life. He wasn't like pity party, but you know, anti-Semite, genocide denier, all this stuff. It's like, you know,
No, sure. I mean, it's correct in the general sense. Like, you can't. It's very difficult if somebody is highly motivated to try to destroy you and to accuse you of things that make you look bad because they know that the words function in a black magic way in a particular context.
Well, like everyone talking now about his 40 victims in Florida, and if you actually go and look at that, it's like, well, we're using the victim word here because if you go through the thing, they don't call themselves victims, and nobody wanted to be a part of it. They could say shame, I don't want to get in trouble with their parents or whatever, but the idea that somebody in the police case file automatically becomes a victim is very self-serving.
Yeah.
People don't want to get to that, and I don't like mentioning it either because it sounds bad. Like, you don't want to say that, yeah.
Look, I think that the truth is,
like, we're gonna. Like, I think also
we don't really know. Nobody really knows.
Yeah.
You know, people are making all kinds of claims about the relationship, all kinds of judgments, moral and otherwise. Like, the thing that people are not saying is, well, actually, we don't really know what this email meant, and we don't really know.
And we'll never know, like you said.
Yeah. I mean,
there's never going to be a quilting point. Ergo, we have to have an imaginary one. We need to put our imaginary. This will throw people who don't know the phallus. I have to say that I think maybe one of the reasons why I like this stuff is because of the crazy vocabulary.
Oh yeah, no, it's like it gets to the root of things. All right, Tara.
Okay, anyway, thank you very much. I just want to say that look at it, sad that only 4 people have like my and I changed the title because I thought, because first it was like the last Epstein file doesn't exist, and I thought, no, it's the last Epstein file can't exist. But I might change my mind. And you don't, no pressure, but since you've like, made me so happy saying that you thought there was value in this piece, if you have any time to give me any feedback, that would be great, but not tonight.
No, it's cool. No, it's good. People should read it, and I will re-link it on Substack. I don't know.
Oh, well, there you go. And listen, also on that note, I want to be a good person here. Let me just briefly put your. Well, no, you have to go, so I should let you go. I shouldn't keep you here. In the video description. In the video description, I do have a link. You're out, bitch. Sorry.
I love it. You're just like, bye.
God bless and get the F out. Just like last time when I accidentally closed the thing down. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was mortified. I was like, I cannot believe I did that. Anyway, I don't think it was unconsciously an unconscious violent act. But Nina Power has a Substack. The link is in the video description. Check it out. Check her out. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I wanted to talk less and have you talk more, but I was just, I'm just so excited to talk to you because.
No, Tara, it's always lovely. It's always good. It's always. I'm sure we will speak again in a year if the world still exists or whatever.
Well, it doesn't have to be a year, but yeah, I mean, it could be before then. But no, I appreciate you coming on, and I've enjoyed it. I'm sure that the viewers of Morbid Symptoms that are left, the ones that have survived the shock of realizing I'm not a Stalinist, even though I never said that I was, will enjoy it.
I'm sure they will.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Nina. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye, Sarah. Bye.
Bye. All right. We love Nina. Nina Power. Okay. Okay, so please do like, subscribe, follow, whatever. Like I don't care. Whatever. Also check out Nina's Substack. And thank you for tuning in. What can I say? There is, what is the Lacan axiom? Don't let go of your desire. Also that the ethics of psychoanalysis is that to take responsibility for your desire. And of course, in order to be able to have any idea of how to do that is to have some knowledge about how our desire functions, how it's structured, and how these little jolts of enjoyment, whether they be persecution or, seeing too much or not, all the kind of ways that, grip us and titillate and, all that part of the humanness of it all. the way that is organized and facilitated has a lot of control over us, especially at the, not just the mental, the cognitive level, but the body and the, the libido and the all that stuff. That if we can have some awareness of how that works, then we can have more. Then you can do that to take responsibility for your desire, because it's important. Psychoanalysis would probably say that it's as important or more important than our level of book learning and all that. But I would say both. Anyway, take it easy out there. Judge not, lest you be judged. Cancel not, lest you be canceled. And let he or she who is without sin cast that first stone. On that note, take care, everyone. Check it out. Check you later.